Father, we thank you. We know how great you are, and we want to proclaim that, not only here in this room, but through our lives. So, Father, help us to do that this week. Thank you, Father. Lord, we thank you for bringing Miss Kay through the surgery well. And, Father, we pray you would give her a restful evening and that you would heal her, Father, in where the surgery was, in her back and her neck. Father, thank you for bringing Pastor Tom and Betsy back to us safely. Father, I pray they had a restful, relaxing time. And Father, this service, I pray that you be with Steve as he shares from his heart tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. Good evening. Welcome to worship tonight. Turn around and wave at everybody or somebody. And it's good to see you here tonight. If you're a guest with us, there's a connect on our app. And if you will go to that, we'd love to get you some more information about Concord through Concord Baptist Church. It's good to see each one of you this evening. And as I thought about Steve and the music for tonight, I thought about, he made a comment one time. He said, you know, he's the potter, I'm just the clay. So I thought, I don't know if this is one of his favorite songs. I didn't even talk to him. The Potter's Hand. So the potter, he's nodding. So the potter's hand. But this ought to be for each believer. Lord, I'm the clay. You're the potter. Mold me and make me into who you want me to be. Steve, come share with us. Steve Carson, one of our deacons, and is going to come and share with us his testimony. You come on up, brother. When you finish, are you going to pray or just turn it over?
Can you hear me? Pretty good, is it on? All right. All right, I just, thank you, Jimmy, you nailed it. That was a great song, that was perfect. Thank you, praise team, I appreciate it. This is new for me, it's the first time I've ever done this, so y'all bear with me. I probably gonna have just eyeballs gonna sweat a lot, so I really do appreciate you guys coming tonight. It means the world to me. It's because of him I'm here tonight, you know, and gosh, man. I wouldn't have thought about this 5 years ago, and when it was before moving up here, I'm in a big church in outside of Raleigh in Clayton, North Carolina, a C3 church. Pastor Matt Fry and his wife Martha, along with one of the assistant pastors, Chris Pipes, that. I couldn't imagine I would be here tonight talking to you guys. It's amazing, or even being nominated as a deacon and being confirmed as a deacon. It's a feeling at home. It's unbelievable. It's just a joy, and I spoke with Pastor Tom when we first got up here. Sat down and wanted to share my story with him, and with Cheryl, and we sat down and we talked for an hour, cried, tears, just sharing the story and have Tom, when I was just telling him, we're just so happy. And he said, Steve, I don't think that's happiness. I think that's a lot of joy in your life. And I go, yeah, you're absolutely right. And the joy is the word I use. It's because it's God. It means so much more to have joy in your life, your kids, your marriage. It's amazing. What a privilege to be up here talking to you guys. I want to start out one of my favorite verses that really has resonated with me later in life, just because how I was brought up by my father, and he was just used to call me Rock, and never understood why, but I always I got old enough when I asked him one day. He just called me Rock, Rockhead, whatever it was, and he was just. He said, hey, Rock, let's go. Hey, Rock, what are you doing? Rock, come over. You Rockhead, come here. And it was just on and on and on and on, and it was just it was words of endearment for him. I mean, it just I just felt at home when I heard that name. It took me a while to answer to Steve, but he would call me that all the time. But Psalm 18, 1 through 3, it says, I will love you, O my Lord's strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer, my God, my strength, in whom I trust, my shield and horn of salvation, my stronghold. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised, so shall I be saved from my enemies. It's hard to believe that, reading this so many years later, my father used to tell me all the time, he said, some days a rock can be really rough and jagged. Some days it's really smooth. That's how your personality is, and I've been shaping you all your life to just become a smooth rock. And, and I'll get into later, he had passed away 20 years ago this year, so it was one of those things, you look at it, you go, man, there's a meaning for everything, and you look at it. And as I get started, I just want to pray, and so I get through this, but if we could just take a moment and let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this evening. Thank you so much with my friends and family and all my family here at Concord. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to come up here and share my testimony, my word, share part of my family, the deepest part of my family in our journey along the way. Lord, thank you so much for what you've done for our family. Thank you so much for what you've done for me, Lord, and shaping me into that polished rock. Lord, thank you for all that you're going to do and what you will do. In your precious name, amen. When growing up in Durham, North Carolina, my sister Vicki and I didn't really go to church that much. We were mostly holiday church attendees and then regular attendees. So my parents wanted us to go to church, but they never really took us to church. We would normally attend with my grandma, who we called Oma. My Oma is my 4'8" German grandmother that I couldn't understand a word she was saying until I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I learned how to speak German. Now, I don't speak German, I speak her German, which is totally different from what you've heard in the past. It's more of it's a blend of every syllable is wrong that came out of her mouth, but I absolutely love her. She's told me all the time, "You sleepy dish," just which meant I love you, or she called me darling all the time, and I love that woman. But we would normally attend the church with her, and who was my German grandmother. We would stay at her house on the weekends and always go to church that Sunday. I remember sleeping in a pew in her lap as she rubbed my head. I think I was about 6 or 7 years old, listening to the preacher jump up and down, and completely come out of his shoes. This was in Durham, and Pastor Gooden, he a little short guy, but man, he would preach up there, and he would come out of his shoes up and down, and I would just go look, and I was like, what is wrong with this guy, But I remember being there with my grandmother, and just have her sit there and laying down in my lap and just telling me, just listen, you'll understand it later. He was preaching so loud, I really didn't understand the message. I guess it was more importantly at the time, I would just remember spending time with her, I love that woman so much, and my sister would agree with that. I grew up in a loving family, a family that truly wanted us to be very successful and loving. They didn't always show it as much, but they told us, and we knew that they loved us. Speaking of Bible, my dad, my mom's from Germany, born and raised. She came over here when she was 16 years old. Couldn't speak a lick of English. She learned how to speak English by watching TV. My dad, out of Chatham County, North Carolina, which is right outside of Pittsburgh, grew up on a tobacco farm, and so it was love at first sight. He loved that accent, I guess. But they met through mutual friends and got married in 1973, and then 2 years later they had a set of twins. So that was my sister and I. As we grew up, going with my church, mainly with my grandmother, and it's not that my parents didn't want us to go. They didn't really know how. It was a little bit different to them. My mom was raised kind of partially Catholic. My dad was Methodist. And being his old farmer boy, they spent most of their time in the fields growing up tobacco. So it was a little bit different. I had a dad that was kind of semi-farmer and a mom that was a German. So you can imagine putting those two together. It was very stern, very strict, but loving. It was absolutely loving and a creature of habit, and it was a little bit different. You meet your friends and they look at you and say, why you walk up straight? You're always walking tall, sitting back, shoulders back, holding back, sitting back. And I was like, I said, Mom and Dad sit there and just yell at you all the time. It's stay straight, do something. And then my grandma, whatever she was saying. Nah. So as we grew up between 7 and 8th grade, we moved around between a couple of churches, 2 or 3 churches around Durham, but none that really we could find that would really just reach out to us. So we ran into Ridgecrest Baptist Church outside of northern Durham. It was a wonderful church. My sister and I used to almost attend every Sunday without asking her parents. We would just find a way to get a ride or just simply ask Mom, hey, can you just take us to this church? She didn't mind at all. I loved attending that church and growing up around some really great people at that church. But I still didn't quite understand the true meaning, even going back to sitting with my grandmother over at her church outside the other side of Durham. But we knew we were on the right track. My sister and I both knew. And if you don't know my sister, she's my twin. We're 3 minutes apart. So there's not much we have to speak about. We could look at each other and have a conversation up to this day. We talk about every other day about something about school, about what we're going through, about what we're reading this week. At Campbell we're doing something like that. But she's always, it's just something about her. It's just that, that 50-word sentence that she just said there, you just get everything out of it. So we did everything together. We talked growing up as kids. We spent, more time growing up together as just back and forth conversating. And she's teaching me how to be just a good man, and always standing in front of me. Any trouble I got into, she was right there, right in between us. And so we did everything together. We made sure that we found the right church, and Ridgecrest was that church. We would just find a way to get there, and we'd always end up, being there on time and doing a lot of things, and really loved attending that church, growing up with some great people. The summer after 7th grade, I remember going to Garden City, North Carolina on an annual youth trip. We called it Camp Surf, and walking on the beach, and I remember having a conversation with everyone there, telling them that I think I've been saved by Jesus. and that Jesus had come into my heart, and I felt really close to God that week, and then I gave my life to Christ. But it wasn't, I still felt like there was something missing. I hadn't fully understand where I was in my walk with God. But I've seen people, when you just knew they were just on fire. They were just up and down, and you're like, what is going on? You know, I don't feel that. You know, I think I know, but I'm not 100% sure. It's I wanted that, but I wasn't there yet. I enjoyed the rest of that time, spent a lot of time, but I was growing closer to understand how to be strong and knowing that I could go to the Word or studies at the time when we were young and reading and going, you know what, I'll just stick with this. You know, I'm on the right track. You know, we went to Garden City and spent a whole week there. Of course, we had a lot of fun there, met a lot of people, and I tell you what, I can certainly learn how quickly Southern Baptists are mischievous, and those kids like to run around and do a lot of things. And it kind of brought my eyebrow up too, and I was like, wait a second, I thought this was supposed to be church. These kids are having fun. Picking and going around and playing pranks on each other. But I remember those times the rest of my life. We attended Ridgecrest Baptist Church until we had graduated in 1994. Before I started about that, 1994 was an amazing year, and before I graduated, a lot of things were happening. I was pretty much, I talk about what football and a lot of things that were very important in my life. I was like a sport athlete. I mean, I even cheered. I'm letting y'all know everything, okay? So I was a cheerleader as well. So if y'all go and get that out. So but I tell you what, I really enjoyed it because it was challenging. It was something to keep me motivated. It was something to keep me out of trouble. Something to say there was something I went to school every day for. That year we had finished number one in the state and beat West Charlotte in the state championship in 1993. I was all everything. I was every record at that school I broke, everything. I mean, and I was living on that high the whole time, and it was just like nothing can stop me, you know. But it was still, is this it? You know, what are we doing here? I mean, won every award, won everything. It didn't matter. It was Steve Carson. You heard it. Most athletic, most valuable this, most valuable that. And I go back at the time, and I thought it was the greatest thing on the planet, but it still had that, something was still missing. Something was a little empty there. You know, it was unbelievable. Graduated a year, had a great time. Me and Vicki both graduated, and we were going our separate ways, and we knew, and it was starting to creep up on us a little bit that this twin of mine was gone, and we didn't talk as much, but I knew she was there at another school. She went to Campbell University, and here I am going to Appalachian State that I just received a full scholarship for, play college football. What'd that mean? I have no idea. I just knew that I signed this piece of paper February 2nd, 1994, and it said that I got a full scholarship. What did it mean at the time? Well, it was exciting and scary, and it was a new adventure, leaving home, being on my own, attending a major university, playing football. At that time, I felt like I was completely controlling my life, but little did I know that it would be very hard. There were days in the beginning I felt like just running away from school and coming home because of lack of family, friends. And college football, you know, basically it scared me to death, and I needed my church family as well. I don't know if several of you guys have went to school, and when you go and you play college football or any kind of collegiate sport, it's a job. And there's some of you can attest to that. It is a job. When you get there, they own you. It is not college life. You get there, it starts 5:30 in the morning, ends at 8:30 at night, and then you start your studying. You have for 4 straight years, I had to be in the dorm room before 12 o'clock. I had curfew. I had to live in the dorm for 4 straight years. Yeah, it's kind of a trade-off. Yeah, I mean, you get to play, and you get to play for professional. I call them professional. I mean, it's a job. And then you have 40 hours a week of school as well. Now you're looking at a guy that could pretty much charm his way through high school and get some good grades, but at the same time, well, that's the football player guy. We're going to help him out a little bit, you know. But they still made you work for it. Thank goodness I went to a good school that didn't completely bend into that, but sometimes they give you a little extra time, maybe work on a test or study a little bit or turn in that late paper. There's about 4 weeks late, but it scared me to death, and I really needed that family. I'm gonna tell you, when you get there, the coaches are really on you. They're really, you know, you've already signed up. There's no transfer. There's none of that going into the transfer portal now, and I don't like that coach. I'm going up in the next school. or I can go to state, or I can go to North Carolina or anything like that. It's just not the same. You are on your own. I mean, it's a time where I was very confused and wondering, what in the world am I doing? It did take some time, and I did manage to cope, but I tell you, I felt like I was running God and living the worldly life in a college environment. College wasn't too easy. I mean, it was, I guess being a college student, there's a lot of stuff you can get involved in. There's a lot of clubs, a lot of things, fraternities, sororities, whatever people would get in, if it's this club or that club, or some kind of club sport, but it was at their own leisure. When you're in college football, you have a schedule, and that schedule doesn't teach you how to cope. Doesn't teach you. It teaches you, you can go out there and you can run as hard as you want, lift as much as you want. You can go out there and just bang heads and do whatever you want, get that frustration out, but at the end of the day, it's still there. I could have used or could have listened to God a little bit more in that part of my life, but as my motto was, it was a word according to Steve, and I was just trying to do it on my own. There were so many different hands pulling me in so many different directions, and the notoriety and attention I received from a great football player, it could be comforting at times, but it was definitely a void and a hole in my heart. I was very successful there during my 4 years at Appalachian State. I was all-star, many awards, team records, everything, Southern Conference, you name it, same thing over again. But guess what? It's still there. Now with that, I mean, college football is 50 times worse. The ego's there. The ego is what drives you. The ego is what gets you that next play, gets you the number one, gets you the championship. But it's that very word that brings you down. I mean, it's exact opposite. It will tear you down in a second because you learn to stand on it. And guess what? When it's over, it's over. You're not there anymore to fill that hole, to fill that void that Jesus and God can do for you. It was tough. It was a big slap in the face. And I remember making the last play of my college career against Liberty University and taking that snap and getting off the ball. The game was over. We had lost. We had a winning season that year, but we weren't going to the playoffs there in '97. And I remember walking off the field and realizing, and I turned around in the end zone looking back at the stadium going, that's it? What's left? There's nothing. They loved you, thanked you for it and all that stuff, but guess what? That very minute that the game was lost, they were already started on the next season. No, it's not poor Steve or anything. I signed up for it. And I went after it and did the best I can. At 6 foot tall, at 198 pounds when I graduated high school. But I went after it, did everything I could, but I knew right then in the moment that it was, my time is over. It's time to move on. For the summer of 1998, it wasn't over, so I kept trying, of course. And I tried out for a pro football team in Charleston, South Carolina, was able to make the team. They gave me everything, once again, exactly what I didn't need. A brand new apartment, brand new this, pay, this, that, and other, free this, free that, everything you could think of. And but it was a new chapter in my life, but eventually I found out it'd be very hard and draw me further away from God. But it was going to be hard. It's a tough one. Everything in Charleston didn't really turn out the way I wanted it to turn out. It was a beautiful city, and there was many opportunities to meet new people. I played 1 year at that football and realized professional football was not going to take me very far. Not too many football players making big leagues make millions of dollars. I would spend the next year living in Charleston trying to figure out what I was going to do at the time there. Charleston, South Carolina is a very beautiful place, but it's not there for the welcoming on the job market, and I needed to make a change. I remember that day I was just sitting there in an apartment, and I picked up the phone and I called my mom and I said, Mom, I think I'm done. She goes, done with what? She's a little worried, like, well, why would her son say that so fast? I said, no, I'm done. I think you need to come get me. She says, I'll be there tomorrow. She packed up a truck, came down there and moved me out, took me home. I knew she understood. Me and her, just great relationship. She was there, brought friends. We packed that place up. We were back home 5 hours, back home to Durham. I would return home to Durham and live with my dad and find a job that I could save up to return to Appalachian State. What I didn't tell you was I had 18 hours left at Appalachian State to graduate. I wanted to keep football, but I had 18 hours to finish out an absolute amazing career at Appalachian State. I had 18 hours to finish and earn a degree in criminal justice. I wanted to be a police officer. I guess it took me one way from being a football to be somebody else who wears a uniform, huh? So it took me about 1.5 years to save enough money, and I was able to return to Appalachian in the spring of 2001. I spent the next year taking classes and completing an internship at the Durham Sheriff's Department. I also realized that I was going through the motion in school and my relationship with God were absolutely non-existent. I really felt like if I could just finish this school thing and find a job, good job, that I would be on the right track and possibly have a great career. Well, that once again, that's Steve putting his timeline down, not listening to God. I did graduate that year, and man, it was tough. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I promise you. That is the toughest thing I've ever been through. But unfortunately, there's this thing called life, and it will hit you hard. February 2002, I discovered my father was ill, and he was suffering a brain tumor. Doctor said he could not operate any longer and that the tumor would eventually take him from us. It was a very long and tough road, but an amazing thing happened. And my father was able to let Jesus into his heart. I mean, it was so clear and understanding. He was just asking questions. Now, this is a farmer. This is a guy that grew up around cars and racing and tough guys and drinking and doing this, that, and other. And just to sit there and to see him so humble and beautiful, I remember to the day he died, I was holding his hand when he passed away. And I was so glad I did that. He was in rough shape, but I was there to the end, his last breath. But I knew he was going to be with Jesus at that moment. And when he left, he was there. After his death, I had a lot of growing up to do and become a man in a hurry. It wasn't easy. But a lot fell on me over the next couple of months and then over a year. As being the only male in our family, I mean, we were a small family. I was the last one. There was just my mom and my sister. My family I had a couple of uncles, or I had an uncle and an aunt, and that was it. I mean, we had a very, very, very small family in the Carsons. Been around a long time, but it was up to me. You know, if I was going to have it, keep it moving, it was going to be up to me. But a lot was put on me at that time. There was so much in his estate and personal belongings, financials that were left to settle. He had over $175,000 in medical bills. The good old farmer didn't have insurance. So it left a lot on my mom. The medical bills were all outstanding. We had to sign so many papers and do too many things that pertained to his assets. My mom would take the brunt of the legal problems and had to take responsibility for all that debt, being that she was still married to him. It was some of the very tough times between me and my mother. A lot of things that she didn't understand, a lot of things I had to work through as being 26 years old. At that time, you know, it's a lot to take on. A guy didn't know too much about finances and a lot of things going on then. But I took the responsibility and went in there and just did the best I could with her. She's a beautiful woman. I love her. She's strong. And I tell you what, there was a lot of pressure on us, a lot of things. We had a little bit of falling out for a while. But at that point, we knew we needed each other. We definitely needed each other. We talked about it. We got everything figured out for her. I love that woman, and I couldn't imagine what she went through. But I'm glad I was there. At this moment in life, I was still hearing more in the sound of my own voice, still trying to work through all this on my own. I tell you, it doesn't work. God has been really tugging at my heart at this time. At this time, during this, I mean, it was, what does any young guy do to know how to cope, and he's not asking God for anything? He's going out and hanging out with his friends every night, partying to 4 o'clock in the morning, getting drunk to the point he couldn't even walk. I mean, this is a 26-year-old kid, doesn't know where to go with this. Drunk, do this, party, chase the next thing, chase the next party, chase this, and this. Y'all thought I was a saint. Let me tell you what. This was a tough part of my life. This was a tough time where I wasn't listening to anyone. I didn't listen to my mom. I didn't listen to my sisters. There was so much being tugged on me that I felt like that I had to make the decision for everything. And it was tough. And that pressure as a 26-year-old was not easy. It's not easy at all. 2002, I had found a job in the car business with Crossroads Automotive Group. Wasn't sure if I was going to be a good thing. It was really hard, and it was way out of my comfort zone. I was still fighting with the world and leading on my own path of direction. And the car business was probably not the easiest job to jump into if your mind's not really clear. It takes a lot from you. It takes a lot from you. You sit there and you talk to folks every single day that's got more problems you know what to do with, and here you are, you're a train wreck yourself, and they're asking you for advice, and you just met them 15 minutes ago. That's a recipe for disaster, let me tell you, and you guys know that, and it's tough. Here I am at 26 years old, you know, with a new job, and guess what? Partying was still there. still trying to chase what I think I was supposed to be doing, showing up to work, having to spray, douse your face or wash your face off, not knowing you've been up all night, and here you are trying to plow through the car business to try to sell cars on a Saturday. It's 115 degrees down there in Raleigh, and here you are, you're sweating alcohol out of your pores, and you're just like, what am I going to do? Some days I even made the excuse and just said, you know what, I can't sell a car today unless I went out the night before. Wow. I know some of us have been there. Somewhere in the mess of it all, I was able to sit back and one night, frustration, and ask God, what am I doing? What am I doing here? I needed to know what my life was about. In a moment of clarity, I asked God for something consistent, wonderful, and beautiful to come into my life. Y'all know what that is. Y'all talk to her every day. I met the absolutely most beautiful girl. Her name was Cheryl. I mean, when I saw her, I was unable to stop, and she just simply ripped the game away from me. I couldn't even talk. I couldn't even breathe. Here I am at 26, 27 years old. Actually, at the time, I was 30 years old. This was 2004. And everybody at the dealership, did you see that new girl down at the bank? I said, no, I haven't. So I'm going down there. That's where I do banking. That's where I do my business. And I walked in there and I saw her and she smiled and looked at me and I was like, oh my gosh. Let me tell you what, if y'all know her, y'all know why. I mean, just that look. She's always got a smile. Summer 2004 was wide open, and I had met the girl of my dreams. She was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen, and I really wanted to take her out on a date. We met at a job, which happens to be at our bank. It took me about 6 months to ask her out. I couldn't believe it. It wouldn't come to me. I couldn't even speak the words. It was just I was a schoolboy sitting there walking into this bank. Here I am, and I'm a car sales guy. I've been in this a couple of years. I'm very successful. I'm doing everything. I'm selling 1 million cars a month. The world was great. Everything was easy. And I know y'all remember the days up before 2006. I mean, everybody had money. Everybody was buying everything. But nobody argued. Nobody even, hey, I've got 5 cars. Great, I'll take them all. I don't know why I need them, but I got plenty of money. Y'all remember those times. She definitely made me want to be that man of God. I didn't know it at the time, but I certainly did understand that I'm in the right direction because prayers answered. I'd asked just in a moment of clarity that He does answer prayers. I've loved her since the day we first met. Exactly a year and a half later, we would get married in a little old church in Falcon, North Carolina. It was absolutely amazing. When I asked my brother-in-law to marry us, Ashley Smith, my sister's husband, it was amazing. It was just one of those things to have your brother-in-law sitting there marrying you. He knew I was in a little bit of a mess, but he just said, stay in there. He always encouraged me. He said, this is good, don't worry. We had a great marriage at first, but Steve Carson thought he was ready to settle down. No, he wasn't. Cheryl's 11 girls raised by a loving family that was very close. Her family met for every occasion there was. If it was a birthday for mom, dad, peepaw, meemaw, aunt, uncle, cousin, they got together. It was a big deal for her and her family to always find a way. They were true followers of Jesus, and He always came first in their family. You could just hear it from all of them. I tried to fit in this role to be a good husband and a new father, but the world would eventually win that battle. We attended church locally as much as we could. She was pushing, and I was somewhat trying. I was still fighting the world, and I was still fighting the world, and what Steve Carson wanted, and what was not best for our family. I knew I had to be a leader of the family, but didn't want the job or thought it would be too much. It was 2008, and financially we were struggling. The economy was at its worst. I felt like I needed to work every day and spend time away avoiding the frustrations at home as well. That year we also introduced we had our firstborn, Shelby. Boy, she was just like her daddy. Wide open, all over the place. You had to turn her, keep her running to a wall. That is my child, y'all. That is Steve Carson. She's definitely got it, honestly. But I tell you what, she is the sweetest, best parts of me. She is absolutely just amazing. I felt like I needed to work every day and spend more and more time trying to figure out how I was going to solve the world's problems. Work. And guess what? When I was at work, 6 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, I wasn't at home handling those problems. Of course, those problems were growing. I knew I had to be a leader of the family, but that job is just something simply I just didn't want. I'm going to tell you, but even with that beautiful girl coming in our lives, I was getting worse. I struggled to be nice and felt that Cheryl would never trust me to do anything. I was struggling with so many things in the world. In 2011, we gave birth to little Stella. Now we were a little family of 4, and I was outnumbered 3-1 with girls. I tell you what, the Lord still got my number on that one. I thought that was the biggest I got you so moment right there, to soften up a big, hard-headed man like me. Just put 3 girls in my life. Well, I tell you, it worked. I was still failing as a leader and a husband and a father in the house. I would make deals with Cheryl to stay out all night with the guys, making compromises. And guess what? We both fell for that. We needed to spend time together and grow as a family, not just people living in a house together. Showing up every day, just saying, hey, how was day? How was your work? How was everything going? Just going through the motions. We all get caught in that. It's called I call it the vicious cycle of where she doesn't love me, she doesn't respect me, I don't love her. She doesn't respect me, I don't love her. Therefore, I'm going to just keep repeating the cycle over and over again of understanding the word of love and respect. Not that high and mighty respect. So I'm going to tell you right now, that respect where the woman tells you that you are the guy, you are the man, you are the one that takes care of us, is what I'm talking about. I was nowhere near that, not even close. 2012 was the beginning of a long road in our lives, and things were about to really change. I returned home from visiting in Wilmington, North Carolina, spend some time with my friends, because I needed that, I guess. Go spend more time with your friends when everything else is falling apart in your world. I returned home and visiting that friend from Wilmington and came home to an empty house. I realized that I'd been working towards this, what I'd been working towards had come true, and I was pushing her away. Cheryl taking the girls and went to her mom's and said, well, we needed time apart. I knew that what she was telling me that was the absolute truth. We absolutely did need time apart. I didn't deserve her. I didn't deserve to be around those children because I was failing as a leader and a father and as a man of God. Cheryl taking the girls and went to her mom's. I spent several days there. Then it became weeks, and then it became months. Still didn't think this was happening. I was such a fog caught up in the world, according to Steve, that I didn't even notice. To simply sit back and think about this. With a lot of things changing in my life, I needed to pull my life together. August 31st, 2012, and I've told you guys, several of you that I speak with, that I don't drink, and this is why. 2012, August 31st, 2012, I decided I was going to go out and be Waverly Steve no longer. It was the last day I had a drop alcohol and everything in my life. I was bad. I was putting out. Home and alone, by myself, empty house, just me and God. It's exactly where I needed to be. By myself, thinking about what I had and what could have been. It was some tough times going through those. It was really tough. It was really tough, but I knew God was in control. That's when I started to hear it and I started to feel it. There was a lot of things changing in my life, and because of that day, August 31st, 2012, and I'd made those changes, and I didn't want to be Steve Carson any longer. I knew God had got my attention. Also, my work life was struggling. Everything in my life, my bad attitude, confusing, and a word according to Steve attitude was just at its point where it just needed to like, what in the world am I doing? And all this mess, God was controlling, I knew it. September 5th, 2012 was how it all started. I was walking outside. It was my day off. I was by myself. I had just gotten out of my truck. I was walking on the highways, walking down the driveway, heading toward the front porch of my house in Clayton, North Carolina. It was about 15 steps up to the red door there with a glass window. I remember sitting down on the front porch going, saying, man, it's nice out here today. It is beautiful. Just sitting there thinking, God, I'm listening. I prayed right then and there by myself. Jesus coming in my heart, for real. It was that moment, looking back. till 7th grade, walking down the beach. I can't surf. I had that moment. That moment I was talking about. That moment that I was looking for. That moment I felt like there was nothing anyone could do. Take that away from me. It was just me and God. And I was by myself, and I had to be stripped of everything to listen. When I say I'm hard-headed, but good gosh, that's beyond just being able to understand that. I had a dear friend at work, Carl Reeves. Some of you guys got to meet him, but I didn't make it here because of COVID. That big, tall, 6'15" guy that was in here the other week during ordination that we're supposed to have. Let me tell you what, you talking about a guy that's unbelievable. Carl Reeves has known me all my life. His mother delivered me and my sister. She was our nurse. She remembers the Carson twins sitting there, not knowing that someday that I would be sitting in his office at work. We worked together at Crossroads, looking at me going, I was just telling him the great news. This is September 5th, 2012. I did it. Of course, Carl being himself and wanting me to clarify what I was talking about and go back to that moment. What are you talking about? I don't understand. You got to tell me a little bit more about that. What happened? I gave my life. Gave what? I said, I'm saved. Saved from what? I said, man, I love you. He said, no, let's hug. Big man. I said, but I got some issues I need to talk to you about. I said, she left. She's gone home. She's gone to her parents. She's no longer wants to be with me. He said, I'm going to ask you one question, Steve Carson. I want you to answer it truthfully. Do you love her? I'll tell you one thing. I looked him right in the eyes and I told him, I said, absolutely I do. More than anything you know. Absolutely. He said, great, let's forget about her. Let's talk about you. I was sitting there looking at him like wondering, what word is he talking about? Forget about her. That's all that's on my mind right now. What are you thinking? That's the only thing I want back. He said, no, let's just put her aside. Let's hang on a second. Let's talk about you. Wow. It's twice. God had taken everything from her, and now he's telling me to push her away. Leave her alone. You tougher on her, the more you know, Steve. So let's get you right. Let's look in the mirror. Let's fix you. Over the next couple of weeks, I reached out to my church at Clayton, North Carolina, and asked if there was a program I could join to help me through these rough times as well. The enemy was working hard against me, and every day and through the rough times, the enemy was always there. Here I am, a saved man, follower of Jesus, a true follower, and I know it. I knew it in my heart, and I knew right then and there that if anybody were to challenge that, I would sit there all day and just argue with them. I'd fight them for it and said, no, you can't. I know what I am now. So I reached out to them for a discipleship program. They sent me a questionnaire and wanted me to fill it out. It was some crazy stuff, and I don't know if y'all seen those before. Do I see things? Am I seeing things? Am I going through stuff? There's demons. Am I actually seeing manifestation? There's so many things they're asking me. I'm like, look, this is not the guy. All right, I'm not this guy. But I turned it in. It got lost. I called it back and said, I think it got lost. Have you got it? Oh, no, we don't know where it is. I filled it out again. Guess what? It got lost again. How in the world? I'll tell you, when you're looking at that through the eyes of this broken soul right here, and you're thinking, my gosh, is this ever going to happen? I was beginning to wonder if this was going to happen. The enemy definitely did not want me to go through this discipleship program. I submitted a questionnaire, it was lost, and guess what? It finally went through. I picked up the phone and I called him. I said, look, I need some help. I need some stuff in my life. I really need. This is the church we've gone to over the last several years, and here I am. I'm broken. I need you. I need this right now. Over the next several months, I dove in with Pastor Chris Pipes. What an amazing man. Here I'm at a church in a 38-acre tobacco field out in the middle of Clayton, North Carolina. There's like 6,000 people in that county. I mean, it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's about 20 miles outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. This pastor had built this church of 5,000 people that showed up. There was 3 services just on Sunday, and there's one on Thursday, and they were packed, 1,200 to 1,500 per service, out in the middle of nowhere. And here I am trying to find my way to get in there and talk to somebody. And here's Chris Pipes. This is the executive, the associate pastor. I don't know what they called him at the church. It wasn't a Baptist church. It was a God-fearing church. Let me tell you, real hope for real people for a real world is what their motto is. And I guess you know what? I had that. They put Chris with me. Chris was the leader of music ministry, unbelievable man out of California. I'm talking a head full of hair that was, you can imagine, that surfer dude look, hey, what's up, bro? How's it going? Like, wow, I get to talk to this guy. A man on fire, married to an amazing woman they met in college. They've been married since they were 20 years old. This is the guy that say, hey, man, tell me about yourself. He says, there's really nothing to tell. I'm just one of the guys that just got born, never had any tough time in my life. I said, I've been a follower since I was in high school, even sooner. I said, it's amazing just to sit there. And the first thing he said to me when we sat down, he says, so tell me about yourself. Where do you come from? What's going on? Tried to talk about my wife. He said, no. That's the third time. We're not going to talk about her. We're going to talk about you. So over the next several months, we sat down every Tuesday before I had to go into work. I'd drive over there and sit down with him for an hour. I got an hour of that man's time. 2 times a week for the first couple of months, and after that, for the next year, I got an hour a week with a man that was amazing that had a church that was growing hundreds of people, it seemed like, every week. To sit down there and talk and pick his brain, to sit down and figure out what's going on with me, what's going on with my life, and to be in his discipleship program, to sit there and try to take the word and apply it. It's just, I had no idea that there was so much available and so much that God was doing in my life at that time, even in the mess I was going through and the mud I was walking through. Between August and September were some pretty interesting times at the Carson household here. My emotions were all over the place. I just wanted to fix everything between myself and Cheryl and the girls. Nothing would go right. My temper and frustrations just always stay amplified. They were just always on high alert. I tried to stay in touch with Cheryl's mom and dad, and I felt like and they just simply felt like they just needed to stay out of it, which I understand now. Because once again, there's just too much going on, and Steve needed to be with God and the people around him. Quit worrying about family, quit worrying about or relationships, worried about family but not relationships at the time. I tried to stay in touch with them, and quickly they said, you know what, I think the best thing to do is, we need to just step out. We don't want to cause any problems. Once again, that's like losing a family member. That's tough. In-laws are in-laws. I'm going to tell you, I love these people. I love my in-laws. I'll tell you today, I love them more than anything. They're godly people, loving. I look at their daughter. Y'all know her. That's where it comes from. I tried to stay in touch with them, and they had to remind me. They had to sit down and just say, Steve, y'all know what you're going through. I see it in your face. You just got to work through it. We're going to get through it. Don't worry about it. God's in control. I hung on to that for a long time. During Christmas, tried to work things out, and she did eventually come home, and I knew it was very awkward, and it was definitely very strange. It was different. You could definitely tell there were some issues there. There were some problems. There was some stuff that just, we weren't aligned. There was a lot of stuff that we were working through. I had to leave and go on a business trip again and head out for the next couple of days and head out to Charlotte, outside of Charlotte, to spend work at a car dealership, helping them put together a dealership. And I prayed every night in that hotel room, every day, every night, for understanding. One night I woke up and heard the voice of God to speak to me, and I'm telling you, when He spoke, it was like I'm talking to you right now. It was loud and clear. It said, Steve, hold on, because it's going to hit hard. I'm like, what in the world could this mean now? Because nothing is going right. Well, I came home the next day and found an empty house. No girls, no Cheryl, and it was permanent. All my stuff was gone. All her stuff was gone. You're talking about walking into a moment of like, here I am, a saved man, and God was on my side. He was working things through. How could it get any worse? How could it possibly do this? How in the world can I just bear a little bit more? Come to think about it, sitting back with Tom in that meeting with Cheryl saying, we paraphrase the verse, the Lord ain't never going to put on more than you can handle, right? Pastor Tom looked right at me and said, no, that's not true, Steve. He's going to put it on more and more and more. I hope I'm getting that right. He's going to put more and more on you. And he's going to flatten you. He's going to turn you into a pancake. And then in a moment, he's going to take you and turn you into a piece of paper, and there's going to be nothing left. He's going to be just loading it down on you. But at those moments, we grow. That house was empty, but it was all right. I prayed over that house. That house was a blessed house. Even though if it wasn't full or wasn't complete, it was a blessed house. And I was going to drive, and I was going to pound my way out of there. I was going to make sure that I was going to be okay, and I was going to go in the wrong direction. Nothing bad, no thoughts, not anything came to mind, because all I knew is that God had me. God was in control. I knew it was going to take some time, and the Lord was definitely speaking to me, and it would probably take a year. Carl actually sat down in that first meeting and told me, Steve, it's going to take a year. And I looked at it and said, what do you mean a year? He said, it's going to take a year. At the time, I was thinking that a year was a long time, but it's what I needed. I jumped right in head first in the journey at C3, serving in any capacity that I could. For a solid year, I was parking cars during service. I would go to service Thursday nights just so I could park cars all day Sunday, in the rain, in the snow, in the sleet. It didn't matter. Here I am, I'm a manager of a car dealership, making tons of money, doing everything, being successful, and I'm standing in the rain in the middle of wintertime, parking cars. What a humbling experience. I'm going to tell you right now. That's why I don't mind. I don't mind standing out there, walking through these halls, serving in any capacity I can, because it puts me where I need to be. It grounds me. I'm not better than anybody. I will sit out there. I'm picking trash up. It doesn't matter. That's what we do. It doesn't matter. I just needed to be back where God had to put me and peel back these layers and put me in my place and understand that, Steve, you're going to be okay. Serve in any capacity you can. Go into that church. Do what you can. Every day. If there's something going on, I wanted to be there 7 days a week. It was just a place where I'd go in there and I was helping people, talking to folks. It was helping me breathe, to talk about the things that I was going through to other folks that were going through the same thing. And guess what? Every time we talked about it, I get dragged to that same mud pile over and over again. Just realize, gosh, I want to go through this. I'm going through this myself, and I'm supposed to be positive. Boy, it was a test. You're talking about a test. C3 was absolutely amazing. For a solid year, I would park cars, go out there and work with men's ministry. We had 6 a.m. men's ministry Wednesday morning. I was up at 4:30 that morning, getting ready, getting showered, ready to go. Look at the watch and say, I said, still got 30 minutes before I can leave the house. I'm ready to go now. Go in there and sit for a room full of men. 100 men sitting in there were just as broken, just as me. I could sit there and lean on them. They sit there and grab you by the head and say, you know what? I know what you're going through. I'm doing the same thing, but let's pray right now. Let's not talk about prayer. Let's not talk about I'll be praying for you. Oh, yeah, brother, I'll be praying for you. No, We're going to do it right now. Right now. Let's get it off. Let's get it off our chest right now. If you ever feel that moment where you need to pray for somebody, do it right there. Don't wait 2 minutes. Don't wait 30 seconds. Do it right there. That's what this men's group had taught me. Right there. That's when a person needs a prayer. When it comes to heart, God is leaning on you. He's telling you, pray. Pray for this man. Pray for this boy. Pray for this child. Or anybody that needs it. I mean, some of the old men you look at. I mean, men that are seniors to you, you're elders. You're sitting there going through tough time. I talked to one on the other day in our church here. He's going through a tough time. He called me, talked to me, see if I needed anything. I ended up praying with him. He was needing some stuff in his life. And guess what? We prayed right there over the phone. So, final answer he told me, he said, Steve, is well received. God knows I needed that today. Thank you. I was like, no, thank you. I'm glad I was here. It was definitely going to take some time going through that church, going there every day, seeing families, seeing children running around playing, knowing and wishing and hoping that would be me one day. It was time to start over and die to what God had planned for me. Since I've had plenty of time, I used it very wisely and read several books. And I don't mean several. I probably read 20 books that year. Marriage on the Rock. 5 love languages. lifelong love affair, Love and Respect. These are crazy books. Joyce Meyer's Battlefield of the Mind. I don't like to listen to her preach. I've said that before, but I'll tell you what, that is an amazing book. That really jerks a knot in you. Listening to what it's like to walk into a room and talk to people and know that you're listening. She's been reading and being able to just communicate with folks. Sitting down and saying, I just need to communicate. To walk into a house and ask, to simply say, one of the things I tell people all the time, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, is when it's been a rough day, when you walk in, it's been a tough day for you men, and I'm speaking to you. You walk in that house, and it's been rough. Everybody's been at you. The job's been at you. You hit a pothole. Your tire blew on the way home. You're out of gas. Gas is $9 a gallon. You had to fill up on the way home. And you walk in the house, and there's your beautiful angel that comes up to you and says, blah, 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 at 100 million miles an hour. What do we mostly do? What do we go in there and do? Hey, I just need 30 minutes. I just need to relax. I need to sit down. Just give me a moment. If you're doing that, that's wrong. Let me tell you why. Because it doesn't work. Because she don't care that you wanted to fix everything. She just wanted to tell you. So you look at her and you tell her, honey, is this something I need to fix? Or do you just want me to listen? And you listen. I don't care if you've got stuff coming out of your head, green, purple, blue, ooze. I don't care if it's the worst story you've ever heard in your life, because it's not always going to be that. But some days there are things that are more important than you, and that's her story. You listening. You giving her the moment, that time, that love that she deserves. Those books, I've read so many of them, been able to communicate with folks. Even I was starting to see it communicate with my coworkers, my family, reading over and over again, being able to have to communicate, listening twice as much than speaking. Don't be quick to fix something. I understand this. I was sitting at work one day and a girl looked at me and said, you think women are blah, 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 this, that, and other. They're so easy, blah, blah, blah. They're so tough. You guys don't know anything. I said, no, they're very simple. You just have to shut up and listen. And don't try to fix everything. Just listen. Sit down there and listen. Because I'm telling you, 3016 Equine Lane Drive in Clayton, North Carolina, there was one man living in a house by himself that wished he had those ears at that time. I'm not here preaching to you guys, but I'm telling you right now, listening is everything. I don't know what that is. Let me tell you, listening is everything. Listening is doing your part. Quit trying to fix everything. She's telling you a story. She goes down there and wants to tell you about, hey, look at this plumbing down here. Oh, did you need... No. She just want to tell you how her day was. That was her way of communicating. That was her way of saying, gosh, I love you. Love and Respect is probably one of the best books I've ever read in my life. It's that love that she deserves and that respect we need. Going back to that respect, as I said earlier. Not that high and mighty respect. That respect where that woman walks in your house and just tells you, thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for being a man of God. Thank you for being a father. Thank you for being a leader. Thank you for providing. Thank you for making sure that everything is always good for us. What had she said yet? She hadn't said the word at all. She didn't say, I love you, but she said it 50 million times. Didn't even have to say it. She doesn't have to say it. That is what I needed in my life. That is what I'd learned that I had failed at, of not listening, coming home and listening, understanding where everything in my life was a world according to Steve. I had plenty of time, and I definitely read a bunch of those books. I knew I had to become an improved father for my two little girls. And with the 2 or 3 days a week I was able to spend with them, I learned how to be patient. I learned how to be patient. I learned how to love them all over again. I learned what they needed more than what I needed, and that was a God-fearing, loving father. Week after week, I spent time diving into the Word. Spent time diving into the Word to know God and my family. I didn't know what the future was hold, but I knew I was going to be okay. As time passed on, there were good days and bad days, mostly good. There would be times when the enemy was working hard against me. But I knew how to stand firm and strong and go to the Word for answers. But it wasn't over. And when it couldn't get any worse, it happened. May of 2012, I received the divorce papers from my wife. was so unexpected, and I thought it was a possibility, and now it was real. I did what I learned to do and was dropped down and pray to God for the next move. It was a humbling experience. In May of 2012, I remember that day. I remember how tough it was. I remember that I felt like a dark cloud had come over to my life, and I was looking up to God, and I said, well, I thought this was something that you wanted, us to be married. But that was only a second. But it was a second, it was eternity for me. I knew God was in control. I knew in my heart God was in control. It's going to be okay. Over the next few days, I felt I needed answers from God. I called C3 and asked him to pray and give me a blessing to fast. Now, I don't know if you fast or maybe taken a day or two or maybe a week, maybe just went through a normal Daniel fast, or this was an absolute fast, a common fast. This was one where you just drink water. I fasted for 11 days for an answer from God. To ask him what's going on in my wife's life, what's going on in my life, what is happening here? Although the answer from the question I had asked wasn't exactly what I wanted to hear, it was the answer I needed. Through the power of prayer, my brothers, Carl Reeves and Chris Pipes, who were there at every moment of this journey, I was able to understand the application on so many different levels. There were many things changing in my life for good, and opportunities were opening up. Many of my friends and family were beginning to see notice the changes in my life, and wanted to know how I was doing it. I simply, God spoke to me for a long time, and I just decided to listen. As I was looking back over the year, I knew everything in my life was changing because God was at the center of all my decisions. I decided that this new life of mine, whether Cheryl was there or not, was going to be okay. I was going to be just fine. I remember speaking to God and saying so intimately that I was going to be okay and that I could run through a hurricane. I come out alive with his help. There was nothing that I was fear of. I wasn't scared of anything. Just go back to that moment and live in that moment and understand what that is, what that feels like. Step out in the middle of a storm and not worry about one thing, not worry about anything at all. But you know what? There's more. I was down in Sanford, North Carolina. I was visiting a friend. I'd met his father probably about a year before and got a chance to sit down and talk to him. This was a true man of God. This is an amazing man. I got to sit down there and talk to him and just get to know him very well. We sat for hours at one of my really good friend's wedding just to sit there and talking to him. He had become ill and passed away. And I decided, I said, I'm going to take off and drive those 2 hours, and I'm going to go see him down there. Let's go see the family. And I'll tell you, it was the craziest thing ever. I went in there and walked in there, and I saw my really good friend and his wife. Talked for a little bit. He hugged me. He looked at me, and he just hugged me, and he said, you're a true friend. You're a true friend. I can't believe you come all this way. And I said, man, if you knew who I was and who I am now, you would understand. His wife looked at me and asked me, she goes, look, this funeral is pretty tough. I said, but I just want to ask you, how are you doing? I said, you know what? I got this feeling the other day. It was really weird. I said, I don't know what it is, but I'm okay. I said, but she goes, how's Cheryl? And I said, that's just it. I got this feeling. There's things changing. I don't know what it is, but I got in the car. My phone rang. It was Cheryl. It was the most important phone call I'd ever seen in my life, and I don't know why, because, we talk every once in a while, but it was Cheryl. She wanted to meet me and have a long talk. I really wasn't sure what it was all about, but I knew that God was in my life, and He had this covered. I was 2 hours away from her house, of her parents' house. I drove as fast as I could to get there. Not even sure what was going on and what we're going to sit down and talk about. All I know is I've been served divorce papers, and here we are. We're going to sit down and talk. I arrived out at the front doorstep and sat down with her on the front porch. We didn't go inside. Her family was inside. We just sat outside, and she just wanted to look at me. She just wanted to talk. She asked me how I was doing. I said, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Amazingly, I'm doing good. It's good to see you. We really couldn't say anything for a moment. We just sat there, contemplated who was going to talk first. She finally just said, let me talk. She says she told me she couldn't sign those divorce papers because God was tugging at her heart. She said she knew it wasn't right because good things were coming. She said, I have watched you, Steve, for a long time and didn't believe you had changed. And when I saw those changes in your life, the smile you have, and even in the way the girls looked at you, she wanted to ask me for forgiveness that night. Ask me for forgiveness. When I'm the guy that did everything. I'm the guy that was the angry husband, the father, the one that didn't come home. She wanted what I had in my heart to be in hers. Tell you what, we cried that day. Knew we were better together. We were all in. Funny thing about it, I said, what led you to this? She goes, I was watching a sermon at your church, and the pastor was doing a series on All In. I said, it's funny, I was there too, thinking about you. Oh, man. These are tears of joy. Please understand. My love for Cheryl and the girls grows stronger every day. Every day of my life, God first and family. She's the most beautiful woman I know inside and out. And I'd become the man of God that He had intended for my life. Every day is a new day and a new beginning for all of us. As a man of God and a leader at our home, we always try to make everything about honoring God. I love our story, and I often think of those times coming closer to God. I've shared this story multiple times with several people, and guys and men that have come to me in the ministry. You just pick up your phone one day and don't even recognize the phone number and find out a church is giving your number away and say, talk to this guy. He knows. He knows how to get through that. Hopefully I can go through this and tell this 1,000 times. It needs to be told. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. You have no idea what it's mean for you guys to show up tonight and be here. I'm a big guy. I'm a very proud guy. But I tell you, to open my heart up to you guys, it's just been so rewarding. Thank you. And I appreciate you. God bless you all. Thank you.
Tom McDonald, do you want to come up here? Or not? I just feel led to ask Pastor Tom to come up here. And guys, when you go through a test, that's how you develop a testimony. That's how you grow a testimony. And Steve, thank you. The times I've gotten to know him and have had the opportunity to talk with him, he's meant more to me than I have to him, I'm sure. Thank you. So I'm just going to ask you to bow your head for a moment. Ask Pastor Tom to stand down here. And if God is dealing with anybody in here right now, if you want to come up pray at the altar, if you want to come up pray with Steve, if you want to come up and pray with Pastor Tom, he'll pray with you. I chose a song tonight called I Surrender All, but I don't want to sing it. I don't even want to ask you to stand. Just going to ask Denise if she would please play it. And the words are up on the screen. But if you want to bow your head and if you need to pray, if whatever God has moved in your heart, however He's used Steve in your life tonight and what he had to say. So just bow your heads. And Pastor Tom will be down here. Steve is here. I'm here. Dan is upstairs if he needs to come down. But if you need to come to this altar, if you need to talk to one of us about receiving Christ, if you need to just say, God, I'm not all in yet. I had no idea Steve was going to finish with that statement. And God led me to this hymn. I surrender all. So are you all in? Are you in your Christian walk first? You may be thinking like Steve, I got to get my marriage straight. No, you got to get your life straight first. So is there something you need to surrender tonight? One more verse.